4. What? And we're off. Then they're off. There we go. So, for the first part of this, they will have to pull down the CPUs to temperature at which they want to bench, and then start putting out scores. So for some, it might be a good idea to also check that the system even runs the benchmark this time around, but we've actually X265 was tested on Xtreme Addict's system when we were trying to debug Y-Cruncher, so yeah.
Here we go into this final of this HWBOT World Championship here. That's going to be Marc0053 against Xtreme Addict. On the red side of the match, we have Marc0053, and on the blue side we have Xtreme Addict.
Yep. So Marc0053 just applied max memory to his Windows, and that basically helps run better settings on B-die memory, or so it was explained to me, as I haven't benched any Z170 platforms whatsoever. Xtreme Addict, so now we're waiting for both of them to get their systems all started up again. Mark is in the BIOS and tweaking settings, and he's restarting again. Xtreme Addict has just got into the BIOS, and he's loading up a profile. He's loaded up a LN2 profile.
Maybe one that worked this time.
Actually, it's the same profile he loaded up for Y-Cruncher at the start last time. So it might just be that, you know, it seems to be that it's only Y-Cruncher that's broken, so he definitely just loaded a profile that should be known good for all the other benchmarks he's run so far. It may also be just a starting profile which isn't completely maxed out, so he can pull it up in OS.
That's going to be very interesting to see what the guys can pull out as a score for today. It's quite intense to see.
So Mark is now in the operating system, and we will see if he decides to run. He should be. Can't think of anything else he wants to do right now. And yep, he is starting the benchmark. Well, he's opening the benchmark. Should be starting the run on it soon. Benchmark does support custom priority, and just ran it at real-time priority.
This benchmark is basically converting a stock footage into a H265 encoding files.
Yep.
This is the 1080p settings. You have a little 4K settings. But for us here, that's just going to be what we need to look at is the rendering time. Let's wait for the first score.
37.4. Yep, 37.46 FPS. So basically that works by taking the number of frames in the file that needs to be, well, transcoded, and dividing it by the time to transcode. So that gets our average FPS. So Mark just used Turbo vCore to raise his CPU settings, and he's running again. Meanwhile, Xtreme Addict is in the BIOS, still fine-tuning his BIOS settings. So, waiting for another score, and 38.58. Yep, so we have 38.58 FPS, well, 38.58 FPS for Mark. So he's getting ahead very, very quickly as he's just tweaking the multiplier by one increment and running and doing that over and over again.
So the goal is to get the highest score possible in this one. It will go step by step, improving his score. Wait to see. Indeed, going step by step like this. I mean, 5.7 GHz, this is not that much, 1.86, but we have been way more than that. Still improving step by step, you can see that that's a very safe strategy indeed. While on the other side, we still have Xtreme Addict.
we're starting to approach that 1.9 volts danger zone, where if you go much above that, that's where all the CPUs start dying. And we've already had a few deaths today. Well, 2 of them, to be exact. One for DSLRI and one for Paolo in the round before this one.
So 5.8 gigahertz, moving on maybe a little bit higher.
So should just go straight to 5.9 gigahertz at this point. And he's restarting,
safe.
actually.
I mean, it's safe. I mean, you need to go safe settings.
Yeah, but I would have just run it at the same voltage. I mean, it would crash, but still, it's like,
and
if
then
you're restarting, crashing, same thing.
And you have to heat up the coolers, so that means either he's too cold or he crashed and he cannot restart the system at this temperature.
Yep. So he either cold bugged or he cold boot bugged right now.
You can see Mark right there heating up the system. We can see Xtreme Addict struggling with his system as well. That's not very fortunate for him. I mean, he got issue in the previous round.
Wasn't he still fine-tuning BIOS settings, or is he now having problems to boot?
See, he's like plugging, unplugging, resetting the BIOS, and
yeah, well, he decided to fiddle with the BIOS settings at the start of the very start, so.
We do have right now the 2 overclockers not in the system yet. You can see here that's Xtreme Addict view.
So Xtreme Addict is now currently having all his boot issues caused by his memory, which is why he still hasn't gotten a score out, because he can't get the system to boot due to his memory settings.
And this has already been almost 7 minutes in that game. That's going. The time flies so fast. Time flies so fast when you're waiting for these guys.
Mark just managed to get the system to boot, as his BIOS screen just flashed into existence, and he has the overclocking failed error, which is, you know, part of expected operation at a level like this.
You do expect a lot this kind of error, and the BSOD, you do expect them quite a lot.
So probably going to go into the BIOS to fine-tune a few more settings and then go back into the operating system and start over with his process of slowly raising CPU frequency. Xtreme Addict has made it back into his BIOS as well.
Xtreme Addict BIOS. Setting up save voltage for now. Gonna see if he can. Actually, for him, that's important to have a placeholder score.
Yeah, at this point he really wants to get down a placeholder score, or at least he needs to see where he has to start from. Both of them are rebooting?
Let's cool down!
Yep. Marc0053 keeps getting the overclocking failed error, which tends to pop up if you mess up your BIOS settings and the motherboard manages to actually recover from them. So, I wonder what it is that he's having issues with.
Alright, we are having side-by-side view now. Yeah, Mark is still struggling to get the system, but he does have scores. He does have scores. He's at 40.1, and we can see that Xtreme Addict will be running the benchmark for the benchmark. Run the benchmark. The benchmark is running! What a success! Yeah!
And Marc0053 is also back in the operating system and going to be running very, very soon.
So we do have the overclocker side by side. Xtreme Addict is almost more than halfway through the benchmark. There's about 8 seconds left in the rendering. Let's see what scores you can get out of this. Drum roll. First score for Xtreme Addict in past the semifinal. Alright, 33.11 point for Xtreme Addict. This is the first score he managed to do in semifinal and final.
So he still has a ways to go, though. He needs to get at least 7 more frames per second. That's a lot of distance to close.
So in this specific benchmark, the goal is to have the highest score.
Yep. Goal here is to have the highest FPS. Pretty much just decided to rerun it at the... Did he change settings? Not get a chance to see.
Oh, the benchmark is crashing. Are we expecting to see a blue screen? Oh, it's going back to the GTL to change some of the settings. So he's at 5.5 gigahertz right now. He's
lowering the V-core.
He's actually lowering the frequency as well. So he was at 5.5 gigahertz at 1.7 volts. He's now running the same benchmark at 5.3 gigahertz at 1.6 volts. So he's just making sure that everything is stable. Maybe the temperature was getting in the way. So it seems the benchmark is working. So I guess you're just gonna wait to have the a score and then maybe move on to increase again the a new score from that to make sure the benchmark can finish, and then gonna increase again just to make sure that this is not a benchmark issue like he had just before. And this is pretty much a safe bet. I mean, he's still increasing his score like 35 to 68.
Is odd. So he actually got a better score on a lower frequency. And now he's pulling it back up to 54. So it seems like he's thinking there might be an issue with trying to run. He thinks it's not stable enough at 5.5 gigahertz because he is now running more voltage for that setting.
Cooling down. Let's drop some LN2 on the CPU. That will lower down the temperature. And now it crashed straight after starting the test. Let me try again. So it does think that the encode could impact. So that means the memory. Oh, it doesn't change anything. Crash straight away. All right. So what do you expect Build08 to happen now that both of the overclockers seems to be struggling with their system? Do you think that
Marc is in the lead, so him struggling is not really super concerning for him. Xtreme Addict has a problem because he seems to need a lot more either a lot more voltage or is having some serious stability issues with his CPU. So we will see how he will try to solve that.
So we can see that here Xtreme Addict is changing a lot of different voltages. The V-core, that's for the CPU, of course, but what would no, he doesn't want to push too high. The N-core so far is at 5.4. He's having 2 volts on the VCC PLL. Would that something that you should touch pretty much every time you're gonna do overclocking under LN2, or that's something you're gonna try to keep around?
I have no idea what VCC PLL is. C170, I'm sorry.
Well, you do have to use that one to make the CPU stable. Oh, it seems to not crash now.
Yeah, but it doesn't seem to be running very fast either.
It's at 5.4. 5.4 gigahertz, this is...
He'll have to do that, he'll have to rerun it because it did score better after he reran it even at lower settings. So... Marc is also actually starting a run now.
And we do have them side by side.
So the VCC PLL voltage, it helps with the properties of the Skylake CPUs on LN2, so it helps with allowing lower temperatures to run the CPUs at lower temperature. So that's why we can see Xtreme Addict adjusting that voltage.
Too bad we can't see actually what temperature they do have.
Oh, we got a blue screen!
Hell yeah, we finally got one in the final. Sorry guys if you wake you up, but this is the game. This is overclocking.
Wake you up, make your ears bleed. Poor headphone users. I feel for you people. I used to watch these streams on headphones, but then I learned that was a terrible idea.
See, I mean, Marc went step by step. This was very safe, but we can see Xtreme Addict catching up step by step as well. I mean, we're just halfway through the match, right?
Yep.
Finally, we have 2 of the overclockers having scores. There's less than 4 points, actually 4 FPS in between them. Xtreme Addict can he can come back. That could change at any point. I mean, if he's continuing this way, that could trigger the a revert of the game, and especially since we do have Marc that is struggling to get his system working again. He's still having the overclocking failed issue.
Yep, which is memory actually issues, so he's having trouble with his memory settings.
You can see Marc is quite smiley. Let's hope he's gonna stay smiley like this all along this this match. We're not quite sure that's gonna happen, to be honest.
So one of the reasons why Marc could be having all those memory failures and basically overclocking failed messages is because the memory he's using and with the motherboard he's using an MITX Maximus 8 Impact, which is a very small motherboard, and the cold from the LN2 pot actually passes very quickly from your motherboard into your memory, and your memory does. DDR4, not all DDR4 is actually okay at running at low temperatures, so he could be having cold issues on his memory. So that might be the cause of all his overclocking failed errors.
Xtreme Addict is struggling with 5.5 gigahertz, so he had to reheat the system.
And we have another overclocking failed from Marc0053, so those memory errors are continuing. Will be interesting to see if he manages to solve them. And another overclocking failed error. And Xtreme Addict has made it into the BIOS. It'll be interesting to see what changes he tries to make.
So one guy have issue booting the CPU at 500, the other guys have issue with booting the memory. Can just change the system and fix it for each other. Not sure that would work. I don't think that would be allowed anyway. See, Marc's smile started to disappear. It's not getting better for him. I mean, it's been more than 10 minutes. He's been stuck on this 40.10 score. Still have 13 minutes to go.
I mean, Xtreme Addict hasn't gotten any closer since for quite a while now. So, if anything, the faster the time passes, the better for Marc0053, because he's not under pressure to get a better score out. And it looks like Xtreme Addict is testing for stability with Cinebench 15.
Maybe.
And he also has his temperature monitoring, so he's trying to check if he's cracked the thermal paste on his CPU, which is very possible running such a high load benchmark. Yep. And Marc0053 is running the benchmark again, and this time at safe settings, which for him is 5.5 gigahertz here. Something
that actually Xtreme Addict is struggling to get.
Yep. But for Marc0053, those settings are proving to be no issue whatsoever.
Alright, so Marc doesn't improve his score, that was a safe bet, but we do have Xtreme Addict.
Xtreme Addict seems to have realized that he hasn't cracked the thermal paste, as he did not get ambient temperatures in core temp, which what happens when you crack the thermal paste is that the CPU will get disconnected from the IHS, which will basically mean that the thermal transfer from the LN2 pot to the CPU will be ruined, and in a high stress benchmark like Cinebench 15, the CPU will be actually able to get into ambient temperatures if you crack the thermal paste. So the fact that he still has 000 in his core temp window means that he hasn't damaged the thermal paste. He's just having other issue. The CPU is basically not doing what he needs.
Again, Marc is improving his base score. Still not better than the score he already had at 37.73. He needs to do better than 40.1, and that's going to be interesting to see that the two guys are now benching. We do have XA that crashed. He crashed, so maybe improving,
and he's cranking up that V-core.
Pushing the V-core, man. Keep pushing it.
Keep calm. Raise V-core. Solves all your issues.
It seems to be another settings.
Also, XA, interesting to note is that he's running very low system agent voltage and blue screen!
There is 11 minutes left. Oh, winky smiley on the blue screen. That's so sad. So Marc is still in this game, slowly but surely getting up. His score is now at 5.8 gigahertz at 1.85 volts. Let's see if this part of the benchmark is going through. Alright, so here we do have Marc's system. He needs to do better than 40.1 average FPS to make sure that he can actually improve his score, otherwise that's going to be staying the same. He's at 5.8 gigahertz, but it seems that the encode ratio is at 5.7. The cache ratio is at 5.7. Interesting. Oh, he's going to touch the base clock now.
Yeah. So basically this means he wants a finer adjustment in his CPU core clock and his cache ratio.
Does that mean it's actually hitting the limits of the multiplier?
It crashed.
That's so sad for them.
And that's a reboot. And oh, we got a flash of a blue screen, but they got caught before we could yell.
I think a lot of viewers will be
very happy about that. Yep.
So here we go back to Xtreme Addict. Xtreme Addict is back into GTL, adjusting PLL-VTT, VCC-ST, but it's improving DMI to 1.5. 1.7 vCore. It didn't touch his PLL yet, so maybe he's thinking that these settings will not do something. That's weird because he did test that motherboard before. He did prepare for that motherboard as well.
Yep.
He's doing a Cinebench R15 run just to make sure that the system is stable enough at this temperature. See, it didn't crash right away, so that's not an issue about this kind of stability. He is cooling down the CPU again, increasing. Maybe oh, it's reducing now. All right. Changing the benchmark.
Try to run HWBOT X265. And
so Marc is about to finish his
Marc
run.
just finished, and he has not improved his best score so far.
He's taking it safely. I mean, he's increasing to 1.86.
He's still under 1.9 volts. Yes.
Yeah. He's at 5. He was at 5.5 gigahertz. Gonna try again.
5.8 even. He was 5.8 earlier. Now he was at 5.5, but.
Let's see, the two overclockers are running the benchmark at the moment. We do have XA that will finish first and get the average score. Finally, it is working at 5.4 gigahertz. Slight improve of his precedent score,
but not scary. If you're Marc0053, it shouldn't really scare you. It's 5.5.
Even though for the past like 8 minutes, XA have been improving his score, something that Marc haven't done since the 22nd minute.
Could very well be the absolute limit of what that system can do.
There's only 7 minutes left, and XA just crashed the benchmark once again. Let's have a look at Marc's system. So when you do bench that kind of benchmark, like more and more, you do have some special frames that you remember all the frame number, and you check the time. So that can give you an idea about where
close,
you are.
But no dice. He's
40.01, and need to beat 40.10.
Yeah, so he's not far from where he wants to be, but it's not quite there yet.
So again, 5.8 gigahertz, a little bit more than 5.8 gigahertz. 1.9 volt and core, 1.87 volt for the core voltage. Let's see. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. And there's a new score coming.
Does it look a bit like the FPS is actually lower than
40.33?
to improve.
Congrats, that is 23 points more than the previous one, the previous score.
Yep, and he's increased the BCLK even further. So at this point he's running 5.885 gigahertz, well 5.86, because 58 multiplier times 101 leads to 5.86.
His strategy seems to paying off now, because step by step, even though it takes a lot of time to go all the way up, step by step,
you
still
catch
manage to do
any,
it.
yeah, you catch any weirdness as it comes up. Yep. 44.
0.07 FPS increase in the final score. That is not much, but still, this is still an increase. I mean, he's doing very baby steps.
At this point, I'd argue that he should actually not be further increasing the BCLK, because he is at 1.15, and you can actually achieve the same frequency by pushing the multiplier higher, dropping the BCLK below 100. And then, yeah, compensating.
And it crashed.
We might get a blue screen. We might get a blue screen. Wait for it.
Oh! And then everyone on the chat is like, yeah, no blue screen, please, no more. We still want to keep our ears. Alright, we do have less than 5 minutes in this final of the HWBOT World Championship. We're gonna define and see who is actually the best overclocker in the world right here, right now, between Xtreme Addict and Marc0053. So the two overclockers are here in Berlin. Marc is now in the system. He's pushing very baby steps by baby steps, but at least he's improving his score, something that Xtreme Addict is not managing to do at the moment. All right. That was a very quick reset from Marc. He tried to do it and then was like, no, not set, I'll just quit and restart. Just gonna change some more settings in the BIOS. So let's have a look once again at what is Xtreme Addict doing. Xtreme Addict is setting up all these sub voltage, but I would have expected him to know exactly what kind of voltage he need for this CPU, or at least for this board. I mean, the CPU they drew it just before the final, so they didn't know the CPU. They have to test the CPU as well, but there's some safe settings for sure. And the safe setting is far gone from now. I mean, they need to improve it as much as they can.
Yeah, so Xtreme Addict is getting ready to do a 5.5 gigahertz run. The only issue here is Marc does have a 300 plus megahertz core clock advantage. That's going to be hard to make up. You know, there's not really anything he can do on the memory or the OS to get it to catch up.
No, that can happen even at this kind of live convention, and it crashed straight away. It crashed straight away. So we can see that XA is still smiling though. He's still smiling. He still think he have a chance in the 2 minutes and 20 seconds left. Marc is having a big smile as well. Alrighty. See, it's quite a relaxed atmosphere here, even though that's the highest level. Actually, the quarterfinal was more quiet than this one.
Yeah,
quarterfinal you could have here like a bee going into the room, but this one is more like, yeah, they're making jokes, they're cracking jokes between them. They know that whatever the outcome is, one is going back home with the title, but they both go back home with a 6950X CPU. So it's definitely not that bad.
Very true. Very, very true.
1 minute and 30 seconds
30
left.
seconds. Yep. So neither one has their system running currently. So it will be interesting if we'll actually see any more scores being posted in this last minute.
Marc seems to be eating up. The two guys are actually eating up now. Guys, you have 1 minute left. Go, go, go. Need to push that. So they have to warm up to... So XA is trying to get Marc to burn the CPU, like, bring up the voltage, dude.
Yes, it is still true that if they burn their CPU now, they will be disqualified. And we're in the last 30
that's
seconds.
almost not sure they can make it. Will they? So Marc says, okay, no more. I'm not pushing anymore. XA seems to be waiting. Alright, so they are both just waiting the end of this round. Congratulations to Marc0053 winning this HWBOT World Championship. Final is now the best overclocker in the world.